In the interview that we did at the beginning of the class, we talked with John about GitHub, where GitHub is a Git hosting website, and John told you all about it. For this class, we will be using GitHub as our Git hosting. Let's see how GitHub works in practice. And let's see some of the common features offered by GitHub. This is what we'll do in the third part of this Git demo. What I'm showing here is the GitHub website. And as I said, GitHub is a Git hosting website. And you can create an account on GitHub by simply signing up on their website. And because we already have an account, we're simply going to sign in to see what kind of functionality GitHub offers. So we're going to specify our username and password. And as you can see on the GitHub website, you can use this menu up on the right to create a new repository or change the account settings. Let's click on our user profile. And here you can see some statistics for our user. For example, we can see statistics about our contributions and our repositories. So now if we go to the repositories view, we can create a new repository. We can give it a name. Let's call it my repo. We can provide a description for the repository. If we want, we can initialize the repository by adding a readme file. And even though we're not doing it right now, if you can see up here, you can also add a license here on the right. And it allows you to choose from a set of predefined licenses. And you can also add a .gitignore file, which in case you don't know what that is, it's a very convenient file that will automatically exclude from the repositories files that should not be added. So if you remember in the lesson, we said there are things that you should not add to the repositories. For example, the write files. So here, using this menu, you can pick the type of project that you have, for example, Java project or PHP project or many other kinds of projects. And GitHub will automatically add that file for you. But let's skip that for now and simply create our repository. And that creates a repository that contains the README file, because that's what we decided to do. And it also allows you to edit the README file by clicking on it. And it will bring up an editor. And here you can write, for example, initial README for your project. Then you can add your commit message up there, and then you can commit the changes to your README file. The site also provides many other features, like, for example, creating issues, pull requests, adding and editing a wiki, and also, defining other characteristics and settings for the repository. Now, if we go to the repository, you can see that we also get the HTTPS link for the repository. So this is the URL that you can use to clone your repository. If you remember with the git clone command, that's the URL that you can specify. So let's try to do that and clone that repository. So we're going to copy this URL. To do that, we're going to execute git clone and specify the URL that we just copied. And you can see that the project was cloned locally. And if we go under my repo, which is the name of the repository, you can see that the README file that we created on GitHub is here. So if we create a new file, which we're going to call, again, new file, just to be clear, then we can add it, commit it, specifying, as usual, a commit message. So at this point, we can push our local changes to the remote GitHub repository. And because the GitHub repository is password protected, we have to specify our login and password. And of course, if you pass the wrong password, GitHub is not going to let you in. So let's try again, and let's try to get the password right this time. So I'm going to specify again my login and my password. And at this point, the push is successful, and my changes are actually pushed to the master, which is the GitHub repository. To double check that, let's go back to the GitHub repository. And as you can see, that the file that we added, new file, is there as expected. And of course, there's many more things that you can do on the GitHub website. So I strongly encourage you to go and try out things. But the key message here is that GitHub is a Git hosting website where you can get an account and create your remote repositories.